Hello once again, roll to YouTube. My name is Pat, and this is just my little thing and I guess take on the suicide rates that are skyrocketing in the military. And before I go on, let me just say this: I am former military, so I mean I'm not just bashing on military here. And anyways, to go on, yeah, apparently we're approaching an all-time high, especially with the Army, with suicide rates. And I was listening to this in NPR, and what the spokesperson for the Army had pretty much said is that it's due to a lack of mental health facilities. And that really enrages me because what it is it's passing the buck of obligation or responsibility. That's exactly what they're doing. They're like, it's not our fault. It's because we don't have enough mental health facilities. And you know what? Like, mental health is kind of a relatively new thing that's really examined closely. And so to have more mental health more than ever before, and we still need more, but regardless of that, that we have more than ever and still having more suicides and saying, oh, well, it's because we don't have enough mental health is ludicrous. The reason why we have an all-time, skyrocketing suicide rate is what they're putting, troops through and what they're putting service members through, and it's ludicrous. And I've been there, and I know firsthand exactly what they're doing. And, PTSD, it's not just combat. I mean, in combat is horrible, and I hope that nobody ever has to go through it. I haven't gone through it, but I've known a couple people who have gone through it, and I've talked to them, and I know that it's not something to take lightheartedly, and I can only imagine what it's like to see some things that can happen out there. But it's also you can get post-traumatic stress disorder just from the grind that they do to you, and this grind is completely new. It really is, and they claim like it's not, but it is. And yeah, I mean, you're always gonna have work in the military, and I'm not trying to sound like a pansy here, like, oh, hard work is bad. I mean, no, hard work is expected in the military, but we're talking about people who are being put out on the sand for 2 straight years where they're working 6+ days a week, 100+ hours a week, and it's ludicrous hours that they're putting these people through, and it's unnecessary, and it's work for the sake of work constantly, and a constant state of stress, and it's supposed to harden these people up, and all that is their theory, and obviously it's not happening. And I know that what it's like out there, and that MWR was founded morale well MWR morale welfare and recreation was founded in the Navy, and it was called something else back in the day. But slowly but surely, these scumbag officers have turned it into a means to their own ends. And basically, they're taking this money that is our money, right? And this is at least in the Navy. I'm not sure what they have in the Army. I'm sure they're going through something very similar. But what they're doing is that it's our money. We go to the store, we spend money. That is money that goes into MWR. It's supposed to be for our recreation. It's supposed to be for our functions. But what do they do with the money? They take it and they turn around and they spend it on anti-alcohol and drug seminars and picnics like that. And it's they spend it on training, and what they don't spend on training they turn around and put it on a gym. If you go to a Navy gym, there's probably 10 exercise machines for every person on the base. It's ludicrous. But then you go to the actual places like Single Sailors, it was one that they had in Guam, but they usually have recreational places, but those places are so under budgeted, it's not even funny. And I mean, forget being able to just crack open a beer at the end of the day anymore. I mean, you're hardly allowed to do that anywhere, and just simple things like that. And people are expected to just be automatons and not have any social life at all. And God knows that, in the Navy, that it seems like more and more every day that they're trying to stop people from having sex, and that's the God's honest truth too. That if you look at all the rules and regulations put in place, they're saying everything but don't have sex. But in reality, it's they're trying to eliminate the possibility of people having sex, and that sounds like some conservatives might say good. Well, that's good for them. It's gonna make them stronger people. No, 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 no. That's not even that. They're being denied to have proper relationships with people, and they're being dragged through the mud. And people in the military, if they actually do manage to go ahead and find someone that's willing to put up with the bullshit that they have to put up with, it always falls apart. And it falls apart because of what the military subjects these couples to, and they never did this before. And it's almost like the military punishes people for getting married these days, and it's really the God's honest truth. But it's a multiple failure in all fronts in quality of life, while they're trying to give it the appearance of and hiring all the right people to go ahead and do studies to make it sound like it is. Being there firsthand, I know what a pile of shit it is. And talking to my retired uncle, who was in the Navy long before me and got out before me, he can't even believe the stuff that I tell him though about what they're doing to MWR funds, and that how much different it was for him. Like how he used to be able to like go to a hobby shop, and they have hobby shops sometimes on base, but not like he had it, you know. And it's just like they've stripped everything, you know. I don't know. They used to have cabins for him and things like this that they can go and check out, and like just a million and one things. But for us, it's just it's organized events and ship staff things, and everything is like you cannot get away from the Navy, and it's really sad and disgusting. And I'm sure the Army's the same way. I keep relating to the Navy because that's what I've seen firsthand. But also, I mean, like you have to remember though that like, or you have to imagine that you don't think working hard hours is a big deal, but like take 100 hours a week and then do it for 2 years in a row. Do you know how psychologically damaging that is? Could you imagine that your life is nothing but work for 2 years? And when you're not working and not actually actively on the job, they expect you to be going online and studying like their special courses. And then when you're not doing the special courses, you're supposed to go in like all these events. And when you're not doing the events, you're supposed to be doing volunteer time. And people just straight up do not have time off. And like a lot of times, like I know what happens. I know what happens a lot of times is that captains get in their head that, well, I'll just put the lid on this crew and like not let them have anything. And like if I deny them the opportunity to go out and like have a good time and be 20 sums that they are and be able to like go out to like a bar and have a good time, that like it won't be a problem ever. But then when they finally do, what do? They explode, and it always happens. If a ship has been like contained, and it's look it up, man. Like this is always the case. Like whenever there's a major incident, it's usually immediately after the ship's been on lockdown for 3 months. And the reason why is because these people go out and they lose their mind and they do stupid things and they drink themselves into comas and just bad things. And like the entire No Friday Nation like laws have gotten ridiculous. And I'm not talking about sexual promiscuity. I'm talking about like the ability to go ahead and like share a beer with your chief at a bar. And back in the day, it would be like that's how you relate to people, and that's how you like that's how you build like a more strong work relationship. Is that you get to do these things from time to time, but now it's like so gloves on and distanced and all that, and it's just ridiculous. Also, I think though a major part of like what one of the major failing deficiencies that have come along is that the Navy, at least, and like I said, I can only count for the Navy, has been moving more and more towards Annapolis type uh, officers and like straight out college officers, and they've almost completely eliminated enlisted officers, and they're just not exist anymore. And that's a major cog in the system, is to be able to have officers in there in the system who can relate to enlisted members being one themselves, like at a point. But that's not the case anymore. And also chiefs, you basically have to be a saint if you ever want to make a chief these days, and that's also ruining it because like chiefs can't relate to like if you only have stellar chiefs, people who have never had a mistake in their career, then how are they ever going to relate to people who are struggling, who are having trouble? So like how is someone who has never been in the shit supposed to give someone advice who is in the shit? Like they know better, they know what they're going through, and it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, aside from the ridiculous hours and this artificial stress and complete breakdown of everything and like just ruining like I'm getting myself wound up here. Like just ruining these people's lives of what they're doing, and like ruining their sex lives, their like romantic lives, and everything. Like everything that they touch is just being ground up and chewed out, and it resembles nothing like what it used to be, like back in the 70s, 80s, and whatever. But the other big thing is the fact that they're not cycling troops in Iraq, and I was one of the lucky ones that never went. I never saw Iraq or Afghanistan, and the thing is about the military is you're either in the sand or you're not in the sand, and they don't cycle between, and they do it so they can save airfare, and that's the God's honest truth. And they basically just want the same people on the sand all the time, and they have to constantly go through it. And they can make the argument, well, they're more experienced, but you know what? Experience is only so much, like because when someone's been on there for a long time, the fatigue sets in, and it will over like compensates for the benefits of being experienced. I mean, like it does more damage than good. And I think that we need to start cycling troops, and we need to pull our heads out of our asses about the way that we handle recreation time and stuff, and that officers need to go ahead and start having enlisted officers, like people who came in and enlisted, so that they don't just treat enlisted members like cannon fodder. Basically, that's my rant. and I'm pretty pissed off about the Army's stance that they just need more mental health. Anyways,